All right. Well, thank you everybody for joining. We're at 10 o'clock here, so we'll go ahead and get started. Today, we're going to be covering streamlined automation with Acumatica integration. So we have a few areas that we would like to demo today for you. I'm John Rosine, a business solutions consultant at SVA. I'm joined with my colleagues, Logan and Tanya. Logan will be walking through a demonstration of the functionality for us today. He's got some great stuff prepared today to take us on that journey. Tanya will be helping facilitate the discussion. So for those of you that are new to the webinar series or haven't been able to participate in one before, we do encourage you to ask questions throughout the demo today. Feel free to drop them in the chat here in Zoom. Tanya will collect those, and if it's related to the topic that we're discussing at that point in time, happy to address it directly. However, if it's a broader question or unrelated to exactly what we're covering, we'll go ahead and address it towards the end of our conversation today. And so again, please feel free to just drop those in the chat. All right, so as we look at the agenda, what can you expect from us today? We'll begin with an integrations introduction, go through what we are specifically covering with AP document recognition, Outlook, and that area. We'll go ahead and discuss the licensing options. So once we go into the integration and you like what you see, I think it's important to understand what's available for you, how this will come into your environment if you would like to incorporate that. And Tanya will be instrumental in that. If you have any follow-up communication, any specific questions on dollars associated with it, all that information. For some of the functionality, there's a series of steps that need to be completed to enable it. Now, of course, SVA here is always willing and able to help you with that, but we'd like to give just a quick overview as to how you as a user can get some of this information into your site and available and ready to use. Then I'll turn it over to Logan to perform his live demo. Okay, he'll be taking us on a journey of a few different things today so that we can highlight some of the benefits to these integrations. And then there's another area specifically around the Microsoft Teams side that I'd like to speak to and kind of lay the foundation for our next webinar. And then we'll have a closing and address the Q&A side. So again, any questions, feel free to drop in that chat. And we'll have some additional contact information that you can take at the end of the webinar today and reach out to our team, reach out to Acumatica as well for any additional functionality questions that you might have. All right. So quite a few things going on here today. Three core areas or three core integrations that we want to discuss. First off, we'll take a look at the AP document recognition. This is available as an add-on to your production license. What this is it uses OCR technology to identify characters that the OCR abbreviation actually stands for the optical character recognition. So it identifies characters within the PDF or within the document to enter data into Acumatica. You'll see in Logan's demonstration of the AP documents that we can link these to purchase orders and purchase receipts. That's been a question that we've received in this process. If we are using that full procure to pay process in Acumatica, how is this recognition component going to feed into that? And so we'll see that automation and that seamless transition from that purchase order or the purchase receipt into the AP document to facilitate your 2- or 3-way match. In this process as well, as you're uploading these documents, Acumatica keeping track of duplicate documents. We'll see that today. Logan will actually intentionally create a duplicate document to just highlight that functionality and see that carryover from your standard AP process in terms of dual entry of invoices that shouldn't be there. With the AP document recognition as well, we'll show that integration with our second piece here, the Microsoft Outlook platform. And so within Acumatica, we are able to set a connection with our Outlook software. And what this will do is not only facilitate the AP document recognition, but there's also a lot of other benefits included that relate very heavily to CRM. So within the Outlook integration, we'll see the ability to upload activity directly from Outlook, create contacts, create leads, business events. And I think what's helpful, as we'll see within Outlook, is once those connections are established, you'll see some tracking components to help facilitate that view back into Acumatica and keep things tracked. And as a theme that we know of with Acumatica for that audit trail leads me into the next area of our integration discussion today, and that's going to be with Microsoft Teams. And so we have the ability with the managed availability component here for Microsoft Teams to connect directly to that app, to IM, to create calls or initiate calls, and to schedule calendar meetings. And so we'll discuss what that looks like. That'll actually feed into our next webinar series, or our next webinar in this series, as we dive deeper into CRM. And so we'll see things like shared files, that integration, certain statuses as well. And what we will see that supports this, like our Outlook integration, is that audit trail. So common theme, again, in Acumatica is to track that activity, know what's being performed, and if you are integrating with these applications, how can you see within each this activity so nothing's being duplicated. All right. So if you like what you see, you might have some questions around the licensing side. As you can see at the bottom of the screen, I have an asterisk here calling to Tanya on our team. We have some contact information, like I said, at the end of this for more specific questions. But if we just break down each one of these, for the AP document recognition, that is a production license, a generally available feature for you. As you can see on the right-hand side of the screen, this will be, once purchased, added to your annual subscription, and you can enable that feature. And as we'll see here, the connection between that AP document recognition and the second piece here, the Outlook integration. So that Outlook integration, also an option to be added to your annual subscription, will become available within your production site to be included in any of your tenants. And you can see, again, on the right-hand side, under your enable, disable features list, it'll be available for you to select. All right. And then the Microsoft Teams integration. This is in a slightly different stage as Acumatica is still building out this functionality. As I had indicated in the previous slide, managed availability. So what does that mean? I have a snapshot here just highlighting the 2 steps that Acumatica rolls out to users before it becomes generally available. And so we have our beta release. You can see that is much earlier on in the software development, where we have select customers and partners that are able to access the new features, not yet production ready, but we can go ahead and work with Acumatica to inform of minor adjustments or issues that are needed. As they proceed down that timeline, they'll move into this managed availability state. And so this is where we've seen things like the bank feeds integration, for instance, where it's available in a customization package. It's ready to be deployed to production, but it hasn't yet hit that general availability status. So that's going to be the third one, where it will look more similar to our features that we can enable. And that's where it has the full spectrum of help documentation, workflow incorporation within Acumatica. And so as we go into that managed availability side for Microsoft Teams, we like to highlight some of that functionality. All right. So as we move into Outlook, how do we go ahead and enable this feature? So we've added this to our license. What does this look like to get stuff for a particular user? So as you'll see from Logan's side, he's already gone ahead and done this. But if we have that Outlook integration purchased and enabled within our environment, we'll go ahead and we'll download a manifest from our user profile. So an individual user does need to establish this within their email. And underneath my profile in Acumatica, you'll see under our email settings, the download Outlook add-in manifest. That'll be a unique set of instructions that you can then carry over into Outlook itself. So I have a screenshot here of the add-ins. That's all this is from the Outlook perspective, is an add-in. And you can see underneath the management here within Outlook, you can drop in, select a custom add-in from file here at the bottom of the screen, and simply download that into your Outlook environment. Once that is enabled, you'll see your Acumatica icon. We'll see this many times as Logan walks us through his demonstration today. But there is an initial login that needs to be established between you as the user and the tenant, downloading that manifest, adding in the add-in, and going through this process here will allow you to make that connection. All right, so at this point, I'm going to turn it over to Logan. Now, what he has staged for us is going to be a purchase order and a purchase receipt to cover that first topic, the AP document recognition, and show that integration into your procure to pay process.
Thanks, John. I'll share out my screen here. We're actually going to start in our Acumatica site, which I have linked to my Outlook email. So here, I'm just showing the purchase order that I created in preparation for scanning in this document. I also created a purchase receipt, which you can see here on our PO history tab within the purchase order. Once we do scan the document, it is going to be brought into our payables module, the incoming documents screen within our transactions in that payables module. And with that, I think I can jump over into our Outlook here. A few things to note, we can see that Acumatica add-in extension in the top right of our screen. I also just sent myself this email. It's just a draft invoice that we're going to be scanning in for this demonstration. So if I hit into this icon, we should see a few processing options populate here. We have the option to create an AP document, obviously related to our AP bill recognition, as well as creating a lead or creating a contact on the CRM side. But to start, we'll hit this create AP document. It's going to take a second to load, but once it does scan that document, it should show a green check mark and tell us that a document has been recognized. Looks like it's currently in progress here. Hopefully this scans pretty quickly.
And as we know, Logan, as you're going through this process, to incorporate the login or incorporate the add-in here, you're able to log in directly through Outlook here into your Acumatica demo environment using that same set of credentials.
Yep, and we'll see that here in a second. Once we do go through here in the scans, we'll be brought to our Acumatica site. Let me just exit out of this and try one more time. All right, there we go. A document has been recognized. Just took me to log out there and log back in. Once I hit this view document, we'll be taken into our Acumatica site where we can see the scanned document. A few things to note right away. It's going to default into that recognized status. It will default in as a bill as well. You do have the option to change that. Recognize the vendor we have here. If this was the incorrect vendor for some reason, we wanted to change it. Again, we just have this magnifying glass. We can select the correct vendor from that dropdown. We could also change the location. If we had that main location, wanted to switch to an alternate location, we have that option as well. Looking at this date, the cool thing here is if you highlight that field, you can see on the document where it scanned that in from. You can see that 12/8 date populated. We could include terms or a due date on that document as well. I didn't include that here, so I can just go in and manually select 12/8 as well. Our vendor reference number was pulled from that invoice number field here. Again, highlighted, shows you where that field populated from. If we had a description, it would populate here. And then our amount as well. If we zoom out of this a little bit here, we can see it pulled that amount field from our total due at the bottom of the document. Moving forward, so we can see the lines here that were brought in from the lines of our document. What we'll need to do is click into our inventory ID. We can see we have a laptop computer. So if I hit that magnifying glass, you have the option to select in. And what that'll do is also pull in the PO number and PO receipt. And the system's able to recognize that based off of the quantity, the unit cost, and the inventory ID to find that correct PO. If for some reason that was incorrect, we could select this link PO line. We will then see a drop down of alternate POs that could possibly be correct. We could change that and update it to accurately reflect this document. I will do the same for the second line here. Again, we can see it linked to that PO number and PO receipt once we entered in that inventory ID. Another thing to note on the bottom of our screen here is the mapping options. If I were to hit this update column mapping, we could update how these fields are being mapped in this lower section here As you can see, quantity, it all looks to be correct, so we wouldn't want to do that. But for some reason, it wasn't pulling in the correct field. We could change that mapping on our document here. I'll just exit out of that for now. If we review this document, everything looks good here. Our PO receipts are pulling in correctly. We have the option to save and continue. And what this will do is commit it to our system, create that bill, actually in the system, save it. If we don't do this step, this bill will not be created. And from here, we simply hit that save and it will commit this to the system. And you can process this like any other AP bill within Acumatica.
Excellent. And so Logan, I know that you had brought that document in from the Outlook side, but what happens if we don't have the Outlook integration? Can we still leverage the AP document recognition component?
Yeah, so actually, if we go back to that incoming documents I referenced previously under our payables module transactions, if we click into this incoming documents, we have the option to either select the file and upload directly, or we can drag and drop a file, which I'll show here. I will just pull in that same invoice we used via email if I drag and drop that file there. Might have missed our little box here. We'll go in the big one. There we go. All right, so now we can see that this loaded from here. If we were able to just click into this document, we'll have the option to hit this recognize button up in the top left. And once we do that, it will process in the same way that we just walked through on our Outlook integration. After that was scanned and that pop-up came up, it'll be the same process. Let's just give this a second to recognize. Again, going to fill in the same fields. But as John mentioned previously, the duplicate document, it is able to recognize that. So you can see at the top here, we have the option to open that duplicate document. If I click that here, we will then be brought into that original document that we created via email. It does know this is a duplicate. We may not want to process this as well. Exit out of this. So that was kind of a walkthrough of the AP document recognition side. Again, we do have another aspect of the Outlook integration that I'm wanting to walk through now, which will be the CRM component. So if we go back into this original email, we can refer back to the create lead, create contact. Those are your additional CRM options for processing. If I just hit this create contact, here we can see a few things are going to default in. It looked like it didn't pull in that first and last name correctly, just due to the formatting of my name here. It looked like my last name's in the first name column. It did pull in that email. If we did want to associate this contact with a business account, we would simply go in here and I'll hit that AA services, which is what that invoice was for. It will then populate the account name associated with me as a contact. So if I go in here and create the contact, now we can see the view contact, view accounts that I associated with my contact information, as well as the option to log activity. But for right now, I'm going to click into the view contact just so we can update those fields. Again, the first and last name didn't seem to be populating correctly. Give this a second to load. So if I were to just update the first and last name sections here and save, we can see that contact was committed to the system directly from Outlook. And one thing to note here, we have this activity section, and here's where when we log an activity, for example, the email that I am demonstrating today, this will populate. So if I go back in here, hit this log activity, it's recognizing it as for a contact. This will also track for the business account the contact is associated with. If I just go in here and create, we could either look into the view contact. I just demonstrated that. So we'll go into the view account, which will bring up our business account. As I did scan an AP bill, it's wanting to take us to that vendor, but just a navigation tip here. If we go into our ellipses up at the top of the vendor, we can go into view account, and this will bring us to our underlying business account behind the vendor. Here, again, if we go into our activities, we're going to see that email that I tracked for that contact. And if I actually click into this, we can see it's an email type, click on the summary. We will be able to see all of our email information. It was able to copy that. And it also was able to copy in the file that was included on that email. So we do have the file right here in Acumatica, tracked for not only the contact, but the business account it is associated with. Another, we have a few more processing options we can do with the CRM functionality out of Outlook. Me and John had some communication earlier. Looks like he has a potential support case to be created. So
yeah, Logan, I'm hoping you can help me out with this one.
Yep, so all of his accounting is broken. This seems like something we would want to create a support case for. Again, if we go into our Acumatica extension up in the top right, we should see some additional processing options as John is set up as a contact in the system. So again, we could view into his contact, but again, this seems urgent. So we'll create a case directly from Outlook here. We'll have a few processing options. We can select a class ID. Screen is not fitting how I would like, but we can see we have the option to select a class ID. Product support seems like it will be appropriate in this case. We could update our severity of the case. All of your accounting being down seems urgent enough, so we'll add that in as urgent. And we can keep that subject from the email, that support question. From here, all we're going to need to do is create a case.
And so, Logan, as that case is being created, so for the email that you've received from me, you had already gone through the process that you had where you created yourself as a contact, but that was now done under my name, and Acumatica picked that up and is allowing you to attach activity directly against it. No additional creation process or input needed for my particular contact or business account.
Yep, we're not going to be needing to do that additional times, as it can recognize that email address that it was sent from, recognize that as a contact attached to a business account in Acumatica, and we're just able to process. I saw a few options, view into the business account, track activity. You don't have to set that up again.
Perfect.
As we did create that case, we can go in here and select this view case. Again, will pull us into Acumatica. Here we can see the case ID, it populated in that class ID, the business account associated with John's contact, the contact, as well as that subject populated in from what we set for the case. A few things here under our activity section. Again, it will track that email. We can populate that. We can pop this open. And what's cool about Acumatica here is that once we have this open, we can actually reply to this email directly from Acumatica. So if I hit this reply, we can see that it's from the admin account associated with our Acumatica to John Rosine. We can just say, good luck. If we hit send there, that will send out an email, which we should be able to track as well right on our case here.
Top tier support, Logan. Thank you.
All right, so some additional functionality for our CRM with the Outlook integration is going to be the creation of opportunities. I have an additional email here from John. It seems like we might need a new accounting model. Again, we're going to go into our Acumatica extension at the top right. From here, we have the option to, again, view the contact, view the business account, just log this activity, or we're going to go in and create an opportunity here. A few things, similarly to what we saw before, we can specify, or on the case, we can specify the class for this opportunity. We could say this is a product sales opportunity. It'll, again, bring in that subject. We could specify the stage of this opportunity, getting in a little deeper to our CRM functionality. But if we wanted to pull this in, we'll say we're probably in a good stage with John as he really needs us. We can say we're in the negotiation stage right away. We can set an estimated close date. We can also set the amount of this potential sale. We could say $500, and that will populate on our opportunity as well. Again, we're just going to hit this create opportunity, and it'll pull us back into our Acumatica site. All right, so we created that opportunity. We can now view the opportunity, and this will pull us into our Acumatica site here. Here we can see it brought in our class ID, the stage that we specified in our Outlook integration. It was able to track that business account and the contact associated with it. And we have that email, the opportunity question already attached underneath our activities section here for the opportunity. All right, so we covered both the AP document recognition as well as the CRM side. We can see we have a number of options for creating a contact, tracking activities, creating opportunities, creating a case if something, if we're using that functionality and something goes horribly wrong, like your accounting system crashes.
Perfect.
I think I can turn it back over to you, John. That's all I had to demonstrate here.
Yeah,
Awesome.
John, we actually have a couple of questions in the queue too.
Okay.
3, I'll address the third one. One of the questions is for AP document recognition. I think there's some clarification that needs to be done here. Will it pull in the PO receipt based on inventory item only, or does it look at the vendor as well? For example, what if we purchase that same item, inventory item, from several vendors?
Yeah, so on that note, within the procure to pay process, just as we see with the purchasing integration right into the AP bill, we'll see it base it off of the vendor as well.
Okay. And then as far as the machine learning, does it learn the item numbers based on the description? I don't know the algorithm behind the machine learning.
I know.
So.
Yeah, so I will comment on that. I know that that is being looked at as well, and it should be incorporated where there should be enhancement around its ability to ID an item, but I would probably put a pause on that as a guarantee, as in most of our experiences so far, we still had to do the manual application of the inventory ID.
Okay. The last question, and I can address this, is recommending that we upgrade to the current version of Acumatica. The client is currently on 2021 R2. I can address that. Every client, regardless of size or complexity, should be planning for an upgrade at a minimum of once a year. Minimum once a year. Acumatica stays, it keeps current releases for the one that's just released and 2 prior, but not greater than 18 months. So anybody that has not upgraded should reach out to me or your lead consultant and talk about getting an upgrade done.
Yeah, good advice on the upgrade there, Tanya. Again, once a year to keep current. And then also too, if you do have any question around what version you're on your Acumatica login page at the bottom, you'll see an indication of 2022 R2. Logan, I don't know if you wanted to just back out of your demo environment, we can show that real quick. Or if you're in any tab of Acumatica, you'll see a tools dropdown. If you select about, you'll see a pop-up that displays that as well.
Underneath our tools here up in the top right, what John was mentioning under about. This should pop up here in most screens in Acumatica and show you what version you are in.
And also too, I know that's just best practice, the annual upgrade, but we've also seen in the AP document recognition side, it's just smoother processing, especially with the purchase order and the purchase receipt link in 22 R2. So we've seen enhancements just in that functionality from the upgrades as well. So not only the best practice of the annual basis, but if you are looking for that AP document recognition, we have seen improvements from versions of it deployed in earlier, the 2021 models. Got to remember what year I'm in now. So great questions. Tanya, any others that have queued up?
Nope.
Okay, perfect. So I'm going to go ahead and share back up my screen here. All right. So a few things that we would like to cover from an overview perspective and what we can expect is that Microsoft Teams integration. So I have a few screenshots here. Again, just setting the stage for what we can expect. Within the forms of Acumatica. You'll see included next to contacts, next to owners, again, where we have individuals assigned, linked to emails. We'll see this Teams button here that provides, you can see the green dot there, a status of that particular person if they're online, for you to simply select that Teams icon and it'll populate a chat for you, or we'll see a contact card here where you can make a different decision. Perhaps it's calling them directly or scheduling a meeting. And so where are we going to see this? And I have a snapshot there of the Teams card. You'll see this in leads, business accounts, contacts. I have that on there twice. That's a typo. In opportunities as well. So there are actually 4 areas that is not contacts. It's not supposed to be on there twice. In that Teams contact card, you'll see 3 icons. One, again, indicating the direct message. That's that left-hand icon here. Then you'll see the phone for a direct phone call, and this calendar icon to represent the scheduling, again, using the Teams functionality. And now what we would like to see between the two softwares here, between Acumatica and Teams, is that audit trail. And so as you're having communication, much like what we saw with the Outlook integration, you'll see that being documented in Acumatica, a log against that, and similarly in Teams, linking back to Acumatica. Now, this has been extended as well into the file management side of it. And so I have a screenshot here of files with that Teams tab included in it. And from this, it will base it off of the, say, chat or channel that you have open, and it'll include a list of the files that have been attached for you then to select and upload into Acumatica. Again, trying to keep communication in sync between the platforms here and making sure that you're able to dig into any files that are attached from either side, see communication from either side of Acumatica or Teams. Overall checklist of what we can expect from the Teams integration. Again, using an intuitive interface design. So we'll see that Teams icon directly on the Acumatica interface. And hopefully this will achieve the second bullet here, eliminate app context switching. So rather than duplicate posting, you can simply toggle between the 2 apps and expect to see your audit trail and your communication updated there as well. Now, one thing that Acumatica has available across any area as we look at data fields or data being populated are business events. So similar to any of these areas, we can leverage that technology to facilitate alerts and notifications that go out based off of Teams activity or Acumatica activity. And again, a few areas of record, document and activity creation and storage, just so those are available at your fingertips. And what we'll also see is contact management. So how can you better organize those contacts and keep track of them for that easier communication? Again, this is in that managed availability state. So it is production ready, but needs to be deployed through a customization package. Right. And so that will take me into the closing and the Q&A side here. So upcoming webinar in February of 2023. Had to double check that. Again, making sure I'm in the right year now. So for February 2023, we'll be covering the customer portal, its integration into CRM, that support management, as Logan has exposed us to briefly here through his Outlook integration. And with that, we would like to deploy the Teams customization package into production, so into our demo site, so we can see that Teams integration live within the support area. Again, that's one area where we'll see it exposed the most. And so we'll have that interaction in our next webinar. If you have any questions, we have some contact information here. So technical support at svaconsulting.com for any questions that you have. Licensing questions, if you're interested in the AP document recognition, the Outlook, or have questions on the state of the status of the Teams integration, you can direct those to Tanya. I have her email here as well. And for any general information, I also have linked our website, consulting.sva.com. A couple notes for Acumatica support. We always encourage our team to visit the Acumatica community. In that, you'll find a degree of posts from the Acumatica community, whether it be users, partners, whoever's in that community is able to post to it, track new ideas, post any questions that you have. And I would also like to point out, in the spirit of upgrades, the 22R2 information that is out there. Again, we are working in our demo environment. That is the latest version of Acumatica. We did have a webinar, was that, I believe, last month on the 22R2 features. That has been posted to our channel as well. But if you look in that community for Acumatica 22R2 downloads and release notes, you'll see recent postings based off of updates that have occurred in 22R2. And if you have any questions on that upgrade process, we can be in assistance anyway on that. Please reach out to us. All right, and I think that's all we have here. I'd like to open it up for Tanya, any additional questions that you've seen? Go ahead.
No additional questions yet. I do want to remind everybody that in order to post in the community, et cetera, you do have to create credentials. If you have any issues with access or logging in, et cetera, please feel free to reach out to me. I'm happy to help. Still no questions.
All right. Well, if there aren't any questions right now, we'll go ahead and close up the webinar for today. And we look forward to seeing you in February for a continuation on CRM, see some of that Teams functionality as well. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, everyone.
Awesome.
Yeah,
Thank
have
you.
a good holiday and a happy new year.